Hey, all, welcome back to the Up and Up podcast. This is episode 10. Today, we wanted to talk about something that happened recently, and that is the Academy Awards, also known as the Oscars. It's kind of considered the most, or at least one of the most prestigious film awards and film industry awards ceremonies. Um, yeah, uh, because it happened so recently, and because of kind of the award winners this year was a topic that I really wanted to talk about, and especially considering what's been going on with the Oscars in the last few years, I felt like this would be an interesting topic to talk about. But yeah, so if you don't know already, everything, everywhere, all at once, everywhere, everything, all at once. I don't remember
Everything Everywhere All at
everything,
Once, yeah.
everywhere, all at once. I always get it confused. Um, they this film won a number of Oscars, including acting awards, directing, screenplay, and it won Best Picture, which is the award for the best film of the year. And this was kind of a not necessarily a big surprise, but it was kind of a shift from what some of the previous conceptions of an Oscar winner, an Oscar winning Best Picture have been. Um, and one of the big things about it is that it's a film that centers around an Asian American family and features heavily Asian American representation. So, being someone who's Asian, I felt very attached to this film, and obviously, I was rooting really hard for it to win and for a lot of the actors to win the acting awards. But yeah, it kind of it's interesting that in the same vein that Parasite won a few years ago for Best Picture, it seems like the Oscars have moved towards more representation and away from kind of what uh, its past seems to have been uh, hashtag Oscars so white and such and such. But yeah, did you guys follow the Oscars at all? Did you guys pay attention to anything? Did you watch it?
No.
Uh, I my dad was watching outside on TV, but
Yeah.
I couldn't find any streams on the
Mhm,
computer.
mhm.
So I was just like keeping up through like social media and stuff like that, or various clips on YouTube that were getting posted throughout the night. Um, yeah, as also an Asian Canadian, I was kind of glued, not glued, but I was interested in seeing how everywhere Everything Everywhere All at Once would perform because the storylines that came from some of the actors or actresses were also very touching and inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Um, so seeing the success of such a film, um, as well as like you said, Parasite and also other films in the past couple of years with Asian representation has been pretty, I guess, enlightening or interesting at the least to see how like this is transforming popular entertainment,
Mm,
uh, as well as more other kind of forms of media um, following that. Like for example, music, K-pop has gotten very very big in the mainstream space and stuff
mhm.
like that.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
I have a question. Do you feel like, let's say Parasite winning, right?
Yeah.
Neither of you are Korean.
mhm.
It
Yes.
is Asian representation,
Mhm.
but do you feel represented? Like, of course, there's going to be similarities in like Southeast Asian cultures and whatnot, but do you feel that
Yeah,
that kind of
Mhm.
I would say so. I think representation goes uh, a long way in terms of, um, especially in media. First of
Mhm.
all, it just even the not even the representation, but simply the presentation of certain types of people, certain groups of people, which previously would never have even gotten to the stage almost, right? So
Mhm.
there's a little bit of like, oh, because it's so rare to begin with, Um, it's not that any representation is good representation, but this was a remarkable film, and thus uh, the representation of Asian individuals at all, East Asian individuals, any, essentially non-white individuals is always going to be good for the intersectionality of racialized or marginalized communities.
Mhm.
Yeah,
'Cause
like for oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go no, no, you go.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, for Parasite, even though it's a Korean film, it does give kind of the Western world a peek into like what a South Korean family dynamic would look like,
Mhm,
even though that doesn't particularly represent me, a Chinese individual. Like, it still does give some kind of separate, sep-
a
like a
new
separate
outlook,
look.
yeah.
Yeah. So like people who may not know the difference or are unaware of differences between Asian cultural uh identities would have some kind of idea, right?
Mm. Did
Yeah, sorry, go
RRR
ahead.
win anything?
Hmm?
RRR won for best original song,
Yeah.
Uh,
and it deserved it.
RR is a banger.
RRR is such a good film. Oh my god.
Guys, if you have not seen the
uh,
film
I think
RRR by the esteemed filmmaker and director S.S. Rajamouli, I implore you, please
It
go
was
watch it.
so good.
We are not paid. This is not a sponsor, but it is a great film.
it's a very, very fun little action movie, long
Mhm.
movie,
Yeah,
but
but it's I
it's
think
fun.
like yeah, just pure entertainment. This is
Mhm,
a very fun watch.
um, but I think we kinda had this discussion before, Kyle, where when looking at kind of the Rotten Tomato, there's 2 scores, right? There's
Mhm.
the what do you call them? The critics and then the audience,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I think you're on my side of the critics don't matter
Oh
side
yeah.
of things.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, for me, I feel like the audience score also doesn't matter that much to
mm,
me. Like it gives a good idea of what people are thinking and
yeah,
saying. But personally, I don't really give a lot of credence to whether it affects if I'm going to see the film, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
So it's usually just the word of mouth or something, or like what you read online.
Yeah, I mean, I do read more in-depth reviews versus kind of just looking at the scores because I do want to
Mhm,
see what specific things people are saying about it, or if it just has an interesting premise, kind of at the baseline, like the film The Menu. I talked about this.
yeah,
I believe it was just a film that I was really drawn in by the concept, and so like I didn't really read any of the reviews or anything about it, um, and it turned out to be a film I really enjoyed. So, um, you know, I don't always kind of go off the criticism of things, but yeah, continue.
no. Well, yeah, it's like I think right. This is kind of the same vein where who chooses these awards? It's
Mhm.
critics again, right? Um, that's in part, one of the reasons I don't tune in. I don't really care what they have to say.
Oh yeah,
Like you said, like you touched where kind of more what the common person thinks of the movie, and
yeah,
if it's like a movie that lines up with your interest a lot, like The Menu, it's regardless what other people say, you're gonna check it out.
yeah,
Also, kind of like any award show, I think to me, it I'm not like huge movie buff anyway, but watching millionaires pat each other on the back is like not something I'm like the biggest like in celebrity culture in that way. It's like to me just I couldn't care less that what's happening for them in that way.
yeah. So I think that's like obviously that's a very realistic way of viewing award ceremonies and very specifically the Oscars,
Mhm.
especially right because films do gross such immense amounts. I'll talk a little bit later about the Grammy Awards as well. That's something I wanted
That's
to touch
music,
on.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, especially in Hollywood where films are, grossing such massive amounts of money, the actors are making tons of money. Yeah, it is a very realistic outlook to look upon this thing as yeah, it's just a kind of a club of rich people all kind of,
Mhm.
clapping for each other. Um, I think you can, and I won't say you must, but you definitely can view it though as well, as it was originally intended as a celebration of the artistry behind it. Um, I think films like they are still a great storytelling medium, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, and I especially am particular to the acting awards because I feel like acting performances, um, well, again, like you said, these actors are yes, they're millionaires. They're like extremely wealthy people who are being lauded for just doing their jobs. But there are certain acting performances which really elicit kind of great emotional responses, where you can tell, if you watch a movie, you can be like, wow, that was a really powerful acting performance.
Mhm.
It was very captivating, and there is an artistry behind that. Um, if not appreciated at that level, would be appreciated by the common people as well. So I see there being, definitely that realistic understanding of it, but I
I
do like to follow it to an extent because of
yeah. No,
the
I
artist.
definitely feel like an actor or actress that puts in like a really great performance, right? It really immerses you in the film. It's like something to you know, commemorate and commend and applaud. But no one's commending the greatest. I don't know. Like first
Teacher,
thing to my mind was like, sorry,
teacher. Sorry,
teacher or something. No, that's a good example. Better than one I. But right, like no one's. It just feels that I guess we're gonna touch it, upon it as well in like music, but it's kind of these very select industries where, again, I don't think the money is the reason, but I also think it doesn't help for me to like. It hurts. It's another reason that I don't tune in. It's not
Mm,
stopping me from tuning in, but it's
mhm,
like it's definitely not helping me.
yeah, I mean that makes sense, and that's totally fair. I do feel
Mm.
like yeah, the entertainment industries, especially in like the U.S., have gotten to a point where it is like the hyper commercialized almost, and like the
Yeah.
celebrity culture and everything like that. Um, at the same time, like as an artist, as a musician, like this is one of those things where it's like the recognition at that level it is kind of it's something you do want, right? It is
Yeah.
like there's no other real metric for the accomplishment at that scale, right? Um, like sure, your film or whatever can gross $1 billion, but winning an Oscar is definitely, in their words, an honor that is uh, at the highest level, right?
Mm.
Um,
I guess you need to like I don't know. I don't want to use the word care here, but you need to care about these critics' thoughts and opinions, and I guess it's not
yeah,
something I do. Or
yeah. I think the Academy is like it's such an interesting concept where like it's a little bit arcane. You don't really know who are the voters or who really exists within the Academy unless
Mhm.
that's like something you go looking for specifically. Um, but I know it it's a way of being recognized for the work, and even kind of outside the Oscars, things like the Screen Actors Guild, right? This is like a guild of your peers and things like that, right? Um, being awarded by these organizations is, it's nice. It
Mhm.
is it's a recognition at the very least. Um, but again, I totally understand the trepidation behind you know regarding watching these spectacles, and I think a lot of people are like pretty disillusioned with them at this point. I feel like the it's been talked about before that like the awards show viewership has been in massive decline.
Oh, it has as
Yeah,
it has.
yeah, but yeah, I think it's just a very interesting time to now see kind of a resurgence of uh, or I guess not really resurgence, rather a surge of films that are now being recognized that perhaps would not have been recognized in the past. And I don't know. A lot of people are talking about woke culture and whatever that means. Um, but I do think that it's something it's something that myself, people within my community, definitely there's a sense of pride being felt there.
Mm.
It's like it's interesting to kind of wrestle with those ideas.
Mm. I got like two things. I was just saying, kind of continuing with your points about how other SARS point about other like occupations not having kind of these awards. Or I just feel award shows in general are just they have to be kind of this display of opulence and like lavishness because you can't just have an award show like, yeah, this is your award, go sit down and stuff like that, right? It has to be some kind of celebration, uh, unless you can figure out some other way, which at this point I can't. But it's also, I would say, limited to these certain fields because just of the reach, right? For example, a teacher does have um, a chance to touch many lives, but not at the rate of like the film industry, right?
Mm.
And I'm sure, obviously, it's human nature to want to be recognized for your um, actions. I don't think there's a single person that doesn't want to be recognized that they did a good job, you know, in work
Yeah.
or hobbies or whatever, right? It's just there's no current outlet for it, or it might seem disingenuous for certain occupations to have a awards ceremony just because like why are you actually doing the job then? I don't
I,
know, that's just something to think about, right?
I think that a lot of industries actually do have award ceremonies. I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure there's like, you can vote best teacher for like,
Yeah, I'm not saying like they
in your
don't, I'm just saying
county for
in
the
that same
NFL,
kind
all
of
this stuff.
scale, right?
It's just
Yeah.
like not shown to the world in that manner.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like I think it goes in hand. You said, oh, everyone wants to be kind of recognized for their accomplishments, and
Yeah.
I think that actually does exist. It's just that it's just not broadcasted
Hmm.
to everybody
yeah.
internationally.
That's true. Um, I think that like kind of tagging on what Josh was saying, though the being broadcast to everyone is like it is a facet of the popularity of these industries,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not just that they're putting this on, but it is like, and maybe you or we don't want to watch it that much, but there are still tons of people who want to watch this
Mhm.
and who are fastly, fascinated with the lives and the criticism of film and the celebrity of it. There's tons of people who enjoy the celebrity of it, right?
Mhm.
So if no one was watching it, maybe they wouldn't continue to put on these types of ceremonies, but uh, there's a reason why they do. And yeah, I
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch on the Grammys a little bit as well, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about that's more related to the Oscars specifically.
Didn't you have a second point, Josh? Or were we interjecting?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't exactly really a point, it was just more of a comment on
Yeah.
how Oscars have shifted, or it still should kind of shift more because it's still obviously a very Western um, minded kind of viewpoint of film, right? Especially as they have the category of international films.
Yeah,
Obviously, there are other awards in different areas of the world, but I think maybe controversial or not, it's just the the category international film
Did
is weird.
did Parasite win international film?
it won Best Picture,
Mm.
so the main film category.
I guess right. It's very Western, very English. So international, I
Mhm.
assume, is non-English.
Yeah.
Um, I guess would it? I bet you there's some bangers from some countries we've never heard of. I bet you there's great filmmakers and directors there as well. It's just
Or,
that because we're okay, no, but India has a population of 1 billion, right?
yes, yes.
And that's like the greatest director, like highest grossing director in that country for the last like decade or something. So,
Yeah.
but because of the lack of exposure, is it really the job of the Oscars to? I feel like there's the hidden implication or assumption where they're rating English primarily movies in their thing, right? So I
Yeah.
bet there's a
Yeah.
great Slovakian movie that no one's rating there because no one's seen it. No one, like there's subtitles the same way they saw Parasite with subtitles, but they're not even like giving it the light of day just because it's on the map.
Yeah. I'm more trying to say, like, do we need an international category then?
I feel like it's them kind of bringing light to the smaller um screens and countries or directors that may not have an opportunity against such big dollar bill film films.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's both like it's kind of both problematic and also interesting, like that they are committing to representation in that way, where it's like as Sar was saying, uh if they did away with that category, these films would perhaps not be featured at all amongst the
Mhm.
nominees, right? So it's like, it is something that's there, but it is also an othering, like in a way
Yeah,
you're like definitely saying, well, those are not, you know,
they're not competitive with the real ones.
exactly.
They're the
But
little league.
yeah, but I mean, we've seen, the ascent of international films now become very, very popular, like
Mhm.
RRR and Parasite and a number of other international films. But um, yeah, it's just I think it's so interesting to think about how these films get, you know, categorized and the criticism behind it, but also the understanding that it really is kind of originated in an art form. I don't know. I
Mm.
find these things very fascinating. Like like you saw, I'm not a huge fan of the celebrity of it. Um, I don't particularly follow celebrities. I'm not really about their lives or interested in anything about that. But I am someone who loves watching films. Like
Yeah.
I love movies. I love kind of all the quote unquote entertainment industries, or the artistic industries, as sometimes they're called. And I think that, like, again, there's honestly not a better system of recognizing them, and there's not really any other kind of way of honoring these films besides criticism, right? It's like, okay, viewership is just such a bland metric to to rate films with. So to an extent, you need to rely on criticism, or at least you know perhaps not criticism like big C, but people talking about it.
Mhm.
It relies on what people think about the film, and perhaps some people who watch films a little deeper than others as well. Yeah, but I do want to touch now on the Grammys, kind of
Yeah.
again on the topic of
Mhm.
award ceremonies, because um, this was like a big thing that I was really bothered by a few years back. I think this was during the first year of my master's. Um, and I know I like just said that viewership is a bland metric, but a few years ago, uh, it was like a big deal that BTS got snubbed for a Grammy nomination. I don't, God, I can't recall now which album it was. I think it was Boy in Love, but I don't quite remember.
What year
Anyways,
would have that been? Like
20,
2019?
yeah.
Yeah, that would have
Uh,
been that. I'm pretty sure.
so, anyways, their album was like the highest grossing album worldwide the whole year, and it like didn't even garner a nomination.
Mm.
Um, for album of the year, record of the year. So it was kind of just a big thing where I was like, oh, this is like it's so fascinating that in every other year the number one grossing album or the number one grossing single would have always at least been nominated. Again, despite listenership or viewership or the amount that people have paid into it not being a great metric for the value of something artistically, it at least recognizes the value of something socially because that many people are interested in it, right? And
Hmm.
it's the highest, the most people in the world have wanted to listen to this record. It, there has to be some sort of merit to it. There's no way it's just like garbage, right? There's no way it's just pure dog shit because if not, something else would have been higher than it, right? And sure, maybe it's not the greatest thing artistically, but there has to at least be some merit to it.
Did
Uh,
like the Grammys comment on that or something? I assume it got brought up.
so it honestly it didn't really get brought up because they got nominated for another category, one of the lesser categories,
Mhm.
best pop performance, and then there's like a group or duo and other awards in that vein. But they really kind of I don't know. There was small chatter about it, but I felt at that moment that the Grammys were moving in the wrong direction. Um, and then I believe it was the following year that Parasite won the Oscar, and it was that point that was kind of an interesting point for me, where it's like, oh, the Oscars are interestingly now moving in the right direction, and the Grammys are moving in the opposite direction. Um, whereas music is like so diverse; it's like such a big international phenomenon, right? K-pop, but Latin pop as well has had a huge surge in the last 5 to 10 years now, particularly in North American airwaves. So I just think it's like so interesting how one industry which was viewed for so long as like a monolith, like Hollywood is very much a very specific type of people, um, is now kind of moving in uh, a direction of greater representation where the Grammys seem to be kind of falling behind. I don't know.
Is the Grammys like again an American kind of
Yes,
award?
predominantly they do
Hmm.
focus on American stuff, but like BTS was bigger in America than any other American artist that year. So it's kind of
Oh,
interesting how if you are looking at it like sure, if it's only American produced things and not what the world is listening to and very specifically what America is listening to, then
yeah,
perhaps you can make that argument.
because I feel like it would be because when you check out the top charts, or whatever, in Canada, the U.S., um, it's American or I guess UK artists topping the charts time and time again.
Most of the
Again,
time, yes.
very very similar. Like, do other countries not have good songs? I guarantee you they do. It's just not shared with us. Almost, it has to be kind of like Parasite. I think it needs to go. Again, I wasn't like the biggest fan of the film, but or like K-pop, I'm not the hugest fan, but for them to show up, they have to go almost above and beyond what a
Yeah.
normal one would just to show up.
I feel like it for films definitely, but I feel like
Mhm,
for music again, that was like the big seismic shift where um, Billboard is kind of one of the most recognized American music charts,
mhm.
um, and K-pop regularly tops Billboard regularly. Like it is no longer excluded from these avenues, right? So I think that was a lot of why I was very confused to see the lack of recognition from the awards standpoint, where it had been charting very well on the American charts, number one for several weeks, things like this, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting. There's there's a lot going on in terms of the entertainment industries and criticism and awards like that. Josh, you have any thoughts on with this? I know you listen to a very wide variety of music as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I do listen to like it's the meme like, oh, I listen to a bit of everything, right? But
Mhm.
I don't really go out and pay attention to criticism or like charts and all that really because I just
Yep.
usually find something I enjoy
Mhm.
and go with that and look at just related things, right? If I'm on YouTube or Spotify or whatever and I see uh an interesting song or something unrecommended, I'll give it a try. If it's good, I'll do it. Right?
Yeah.
I'll adopt it into whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I I would say like mm, I wouldn't say I've impeccable taste in music, but if I enjoy it, it's probably good. But I also don't have to look at what's on Billboard, be like, oh, these are like the top 10 albums or top 10 songs currently.
Mhm.
I gotta go listen to them. Um, so I would say I'm pretty closed. I'm closed-minded and open-minded at the same time in terms of what I enjoy.
Yeah.
So in terms of keeping up with the Grammys and stuff like that, you mentioned the stuff you mentioned was interesting, but I would say I'm pretty removed from it. So I honestly
Mm,
have no comment.
interesting. You guys aren't awards people.
No.
No.
I mean, I like check out awards in science fields. It's not
Like,
in like
like
entertainment.
the Nobel Prize and things.
Um, like as well, but actually not only. It's not like I tune in every year to check out who won what, but when when I roll up an award, like oh this person won X award, I'll be like oh what are the other people who won that award to see kind of how prestigious it
Mm,
is or things like that.
I see.
Um, every time they award someone in like Nobel Award in physics, they're talking about some things that I took university level physics and I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So I
Yes.
I can't like appreciate it, I guess. Um, but like when they do the Turing Award when it's like the computer science one,
Yeah.
uh, I typically have a grasp on what they're talking about, so I can see
Okay.
what's kind of going on in the field.
Yeah.
So obviously, it also shows kind of where interests diverge, where that one's not as much of an interest to me versus that. But I was reading about some like math one the other month, and it's just I think I really enjoy in those ones, for example. There's no like I feel I think there's a Western bias in the sense that a lot of the more like first world countries have more money into academia, but
Mhm.
you'll see winners from everywhere, like
Yeah.
countries upon countries, because academics work with one another. Somebody's smart, they don't care where you're from, they'll just work with you. So you'll see a lot of winners from all over the place, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's but I don't know as much, I guess, on the not
The
companies,
entertainment.
the like no the people who do the awarding
The like the organizations
the
of
organization. Yeah.
Mm.
awards. Yeah.
Mm,
I
yeah.
feel like for things like that, it definitely is a little bit even more shrouded. Like to be
More
honest, I
what?
don't
Sorry.
even like shrouded
Mm,
than
Yeah,
the
you
academy
don't know
or
what
like
goes on,
the
right?
like yeah.
mhm.
Like to be honest, I could find out um at least how the people are selected into like the Grammys committee, like the Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences or the what is it, Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, I believe. I
So
don't know.
Something like
whatever
that.
you say,
Um,
we'll go with it. So
yeah, but I don't know who awards the Nobel Prize. Like,
The Nobel Prize committee, I
I
don't know,
think
yeah,
man.
like, is it a committee? Is it a?
it is a committee.
I'm
I
pretty sure
think
it's committee.
they're public about who's in it,
Is
but
it?
I'm not positive. I'm not positive.
Okay, perhaps they're more transparent than about that. But
Well, I feel like Nobel Prize is like you gotta hit a banger to win it, you know? And
You gotta
everyone's
hit a
probably a
banger.
banger.
It
Everyone's
does
a cracker
seem
doesn't
to
mind in
be
that field, right?
very prestigious. Like
Yeah,
the Nobel Prize is one of those things where it's like, oh my God, you've
yeah,
won a
like,
Nobel
you
Prize.
saved humanity, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
shot
feel
that
like
meteor out of the sky, my man. No. But thinking about it, though, it's kinda weird weird because 2 award shows that I kinda do pay attention to or are, like, the Game Awards and the Streamer Awards. And
hmm,
Okay, yes.
I I wouldn't even say like, "Oh, it's because I'm so much more interested in those things." Because I would say I like music more than video games or streaming
Mhm.
streamers, but why I guess, invested in it because maybe I do have a bit more connection to it versus my connection to, like, musical artists or actors,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think that's interesting. Like the Game Awards, are they? I never watch it, to be
No.
honest. This year, I only signed up to put my name in for a free Steam Deck, even
Yeah.
though I already
Game
have a Steam Deck.
Awards,
oh,
But
I'm pretty sure is a mix of critics and fans as well, I
but
think.
like, do they award games and studios and like who is being awarded?
They're awarding it to the game ends. Like
I think it's the
if a game of the
developer, right?
year, they'll award it to the studio who did it, right?
Okay, yes. So
If
it's similar to the Oscars then,
yeah,
where do they do things for like acting in video games too?
I believe so, yes.
Interesting.
So it'd be like best performance.
Mm,
I
interesting.
believe the voice actor for Kratos won. Stuff like best score, they would
Interesting.
award it to the composer, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And
Where's
for
the
the streamer
best
awards, that's just completely
programmer?
fan voted. So whether or not it's valid or not, because fan bases.
I think it was 70-30 fan streamer committee or whatever
For streamer awards?
for the streamer awards. I'm not sure.
Really?
I didn't. It's not like I voted or anything.
No, me neither. I thought it was just completely fan voted, but I could be wrong.
I think I was reading, but for something like that, right? It's just who got their fan
Yeah,
base. I
it
feel.
just
I
has a bigger
feel
fan base, right?
when there's online voting, I I think it's like the first person to introduce like actual democracy. It's like, oh, Winston Churchill had a quote where it's like, oh, the best argument against democracy is to like talk to anyone off the street or something like that. Where I
Yeah.
feel kind of the same way. Like I would not, everyone thinks themselves above average or
Hmm.
whatnot, but even if I think that for myself, I wouldn't want anybody just voting for or not as an impactful of a vote for uh for like these decisions for the awards, but I'd want a transparent committee so at least I know they have the pedigree to make conclusions that I can trust,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
right? Because I think the Oscars is like a hidden committee or whatever.
Yeah,
It's just like
or yeah,
to me that's pretty lame. Um, like you said, pretty archaic. Um,
Yeah.
but for the Game Awards, like anybody with an internet connection can vote. Like, okay, some of you guys
yeah.
have some really bad taste, but
No, I totally get that. Especially,
Yeah. Especially
I'm just
gamers.
gonna
Yeah.
really bring like real just brush aside this real quick.
yeah,
As the results for the Crunchyroll Anime Awards are despicable.
Yeah. They're
People
pretty
are
degenerate.
terrible.
right.
I'm just gonna say
Like
that.
you
That's
can
it.
say, oh, this is like what the most people like or something, but
It is, but
I know that
I
you're
I'm not
wrong.
putting in
I
the
feel
effort
like
to
fan
vote.
vote should only be for popularity awards, right? Because
Mhm,
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
what it is.
like I'm not like I don't put in the effort to vote So, and I'd argue that I probably would agree most with myself about what I like. So, if I'm not putting in my vote, other people of similar likes are probably also not putting in their vote for
Mhm.
Game Awards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I kind of disregard them as well because
Yeah.
maybe if I was more involved, I'd care more about it. But because I'm not, I don't.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was getting at too, right?
Mm.
With what I said earlier.
All right. Well, we are now coming up on quite a bit of time. So we're going to take a break, and then yeah, we'll see you guys after the break.
We're back. Kind of, we had a pretty uh, interesting conversation during the break, but that was related to streamer award stuff that might not interest everyone. So we decided to let it out of our system then. Uh, but we were discussing how this is kind of similar in to the Academy Awards, but also Hal doesn't think streamers deserve anything, or
Oh, I didn't
rather,
call him out.
That is not what I said.
uh, hmm. But
Hmm.
Mm.
Anyways,
anyway, yeah. But like, I don't know. But we're
I think yeah, I wanted to talk more about the Game Awards actually.
alright.
mhm,
I think this is very it's interesting. I like went to the website and you can actually see like the jury, the voting jury
mhm.
that that they utilize to I guess vote on like the nominations, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's very interesting because it is a massive amount of organization. There's got to be like at least 100, 200 different organizations that they have listed here. So like, did all of them together like vote on the
They
nominees? I
they
guess.
probably like some people voted for some things. Not everyone voted for everything. I'd assume.
So it's broken up into like countries.
I see here that they gave influencers a vote, so it's immediately.
Yeah, big
Or Canada, they gave it to
CBC.
CBC.
I
Like,
know.
okay, I now know it's fake.
Fuck. I don't even know what CG Mag Online is.
Yeah.
Like these are supposed to be our Canadian representatives for like
Mhm.
the game awards. I don't anyways, I wanted to continue talking about this topic mainly because I think like the game awards and the stream awards are both very new, right?
Mhm.
They haven't been running for can't be more than I don't know, like how long has the game awards been running? Yes,
9
five
years.
5 years, 10 years? Damn,
9. 10 years, this year.
damn. Okay, well that's actually not that long. 10 years ago was what 2013. I guess that yeah, that's still not
Yeah.
that long. And the stream awards what like maybe 3 years, 4 years?
Second. This is their second year.
Oh, only their second year, damn. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, these are like very, very new institutions then in the awarding sphere or circle, whereas things like the Grammys and the Oscars have been around for eons at this point, right? Um, so I think it's very interesting to kind of see and talk about these new uh, ways of recognizing entertainment forms that are now so popular in our society, and how they are similar or different to things that um, have been done through the Oscars or through the Grammys, and so we kind of touched on the Game Awards a little bit, being like, oh yeah, they do award games and studios and different kind of components of games, similar to how the Oscars run it. Whereas I think it's very interesting that the Streamer Awards are like it's very individual, right? It's like all this streamer is receiving all the awards, um and I think that's so interesting because like I suppose streaming is definitely more of an individual production, but I can't like I don't believe that all streamers are just working solo, right? They
Oh,
have
they're
teams
not. But
No.
anyone with over like 10,000 viewers has like people working on them for sure, except
Yeah.
for maybe Tyler one.
Are those
No,
people
he
recognized?
even he has someone, I bet.
Are they recognized?
Yeah, like are the teams recognized in any way or like
So
No.
I did
like
see a
best
clip where
production?
like a streamer was like, "Oh, thanks," but like also shout out to everyone at my table, my team, stuff like that. So
Yeah, they are,
in
but
that
they're not
way,
recognized in like, for
In
example, like the Oscars, where like
the
this film wins and like
mm,
they got them grown up. It's more
yeah,
like a shout out.
mhm.
interesting.
But
Do you feel
in
like
terms of like the Game Awards, then yes, the team are recognized.
yeah? Did
I'm reading. Yeah, go ahead.
did either of you watch either of the awards this year, the streamer or game? Or I guess the Game
I
Awards hasn't happened for this.
We watched the Game Awards together, I feel like, and we also like a couple of us are streaming
I caught a bit of both.
streamer awards in Discord.
Okay. What is it like? I haven't seen either, nor have I really seen clips from either actually. So
I think the streamer award is like just copying the same format as the Oscars from the
Mhm.
last time I watched it a decade ago, whatever it was.
mhm.
Um,
They
but
all pretty much copy the format,
yeah,
right? It's
Okay,
not
so
much
they're
different.
not really doing anything different then, even though it's
No,
a new form of media, it's still relying on
no,
the
it's usually like performance, live performance, couple awards,
what kind of
live
live
performance.
performances do they do with the streamers? Just, like fucking play video games on the stage? Like
No, no, no,
like
they
the
had like
music streamers thing
yeah,
or
they had some music
whatever.
streamers.
did
They had
T-Pain perform then?
no, they
No,
had
he
Young
didn't even
Gravy,
show up.
whatever his name was.
God damn.
I have no clue who Young Gravy is, but he was there.
Fuck
I
is
think
that?
that guy's an actual like
Yeah, that
famous
guy's an actual
artist.
like
Like
rapper
I've
or
heard
something.
his songs on the radio.
Was he nominated for
No, he just did
No,
like a
he was just
performance.
there.
so then
I have no clue.
Again,
but
it's just like a
none of
concert
the
for rich people.
but none of the nominees performed? Like at the Oscars, like there was a performance of the song from RRR.
Uh,
Mhm.
not to
I
my
was like,
knowledge.
that's
I
fucking
think
dope.
I think the chick that did the season 2 world
Oh
song
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah. She was there too.
and did it.
Nikki Taylor? Was that her
Yeah,
name?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Was she nominated?
I don't
No.
think so.
That's like I don't know. That's kind of mind boggling. So
I don't think
none.
there was like a was there a music? There probably was a music category, but I
Yeah,
don't
T Pain
remember.
won it. Didn't we talk
Oh,
about this during the break?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
but
But like in I can't remember, but in the Game Awards, they had they had crap, what is it called? They had Imagine Dragons perform for Enemy for Arcane. I don't know why, but yeah.
that's not a game.
No, it was like a game adaptation or something. I forgot
I
why.
guess.
I don't know, dude.
Interesting. I feel like that one's a stretch. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
just a hater. I
no.
fucking
I
hated
think
Arcane.
it's a fine to hate that, but like
Arcane was so
for other
horrible.
things, they had like Mick Gordon, who composed the Doom soundtrack,
Oh,
perform
okay.
one time, and
Yeah.
whoever I forgot his name currently, but person who scored Devil May Cry 4 perform stuff like that.
Okay. Interesting. So it seems like the Game Awards is more in tune with the performers being of those who were nominated,
Mhm.
or
Like
at
the
least
Game Awards is an actual industry run thing versus the Streamer Awards is just run by like Cutie Cinderella, like a streamer, and like she just spends a boatload of money and does it right.
interesting. I see. Okay. Ooh,
yeah, go.
I'm, I'm still just like I'm very baffled by these new medias. I feel very old when I like
Feel even
talk
with like the
feel
new
like
media stuff, right? They're
so
kind of pioneers in their in the kind of the way they're pushing media. I feel they're just retracing what the Academy Awards do and such, and because I think that's a poor format, I just think they're I guess they're probably making a bunch of money, so they don't care. But I think they have the opportunity to do something new, but then they always fall back to what's worked in the past and stick with it and that's what turns me off. That's why I don't catch the Game Awards, even though in the last 10 years I played a lot of games,
Mm.
but it it doesn't have that pull for. I'd argue I'm probably part of the demographic that should be what they're going for. Um, yeah, I don't know.
You're saying like the format is old and
Yeah.
repetitive, and that's why, or you're
Hmm.
saying okay?
Versus what?
No, no, no. I was just trying to
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure
It's just
we're talking about the format and not like the streamers
it's
themselves.
just
I just didn't
again,
understand at that point.
there's so many indie developers, and they probably do get um, awarded and such. But I I bet you if I looked at the list of winners, it's again just big money speaking in all these awards shows. Always is. Hopefully not always will be, but always has been where people with more dollar signs win a lot more, and that you could argue that because they spent more money, they're bringing out a better product, but in reality, we all know that's not the case, right? Vampire Survivors cost the dude, nearly nothing, one developer, but that had to string a hold on streamers for 2 months. Like that's crazy to ask from one random developer. Um,
Yeah. I mean, things like Undertale as well, just like
mhm,
it's definitely no indication of quality, the amount of money spent. But mm, I mean, oftentimes,
it helps.
yeah, it doesn't hurt. That's for sure.
Yeah, but those kinds of things where we know that there's a disconnect there, and that they're not doing anything to treat it. And also, we just took a peek at the jury or whatnot. Like, do I think CBC should be rating games anywhere, anytime? No,
No.
because I know they don't.
the
We didn't even know of the other um,
the
jury
magazine or
Canadian
whatever, the
member. Yeah,
publication,
CD
yeah.
Magazine. Or something. Uh, there's plenty of Canadian ones that I would have heard of. Uh, maybe, but I can guarantee you CBC doesn't do games.
Yeah.
Or if they do, it's like so unheard of, right? It's very
Like what would they
advertisement.
know, right? Like how do we know
Yeah,
their accreditation?
it it just feels like it's just money connections rather than
Yeah.
actual connect. Obviously, it's so much harder to do it right. So they just don't.
I think at least in terms of the game awards, it's also a bit harder um to kind of select specific games or like why certain games win just because there's so many franchise games in the ecosystem, right? Like
It's like,
odd is a yearly thing and they're never going to win, but like
What
that's
is COD?
a call it, yeah, like
Mm,
like these franchises, these series, like they usually don't win, but they take up like a ton of player base,
yeah,
and
but
most of the winners are games that maybe are a bit more focused on the player experience
I don't know if like
than
confused
franchise.
I'd
about the nominees here.
I'd officially rule it out, right?
Mhm.
There's sequels and follow up movies as well, and they get rated no problem. I think I'm not comparing FIFA 2023 to FIFA 2022. I'm comparing FIFA 2023 to other games. If I'm comparing to like other sports games or whatever, I need to
Sure.
see whatever the metrics are and work with that. Like I wouldn't know what the metrics would be, but I do agree with you that because they're effectively spitting out the same game year after year, it's like harder to rate it. But I think that just there's a good reason why it doesn't win, right?
Mhm.
It's not bringing anything new to the table.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so
I think that also has something to do with what you said earlier, like how they're just reusing the format
mhm,
of the Oscars, and that's just harder to do with how
the games are
I guess
versus
stagnant the gaming industry currently is,
Yeah.
and like what games are actually good in terms of how they perform or versus how they sell,
Yeah.
stuff like that, right? So unless people figure out a new way to actually showcase how X game is good, I they'll probably still adopt the same method, right?
Well, I
I don't
mean,
know.
they have the opportunity. They're just like, oh, we know this tried and tested.
It's your time to shine. Get
I don't care enough.
the CMG Gaming Awards.
Yeah,
I don't care
Ultimate
enough.
Gaming Awards. I
Yes.
Did you guys take a look at all at the categories in the Game Awards? I've just been kind of perusing this briefly, and it's extremely interesting. I think this is definitely where you can see the pitfall of having a jury of like 200 fucking organizations, half of which I don't think have anything to do with gaming.
Hmm.
Because like, first of all, there's no shooter category at all, and it seems like the shooters have been spread out amongst a variety of categories, including best esports game, where Valorant and CS:GO are, and Valorant won that category. But there's nothing for like actual just shooters. That's like very
Hmm.
interesting to me. Um, and then
Mm.
also things like best role playing or best multiplayer, for instance. Both the categories say including co-op and massively multiplayer experiences, irrespective of game genre or platform, and neither of these categories have any MMOs in them. Even though
Yeah.
even though Final Fantasy won for best ongoing. So like
They're
how did
just
that
not
not
good
even get
games, I guess.
nominated in like it didn't get nominated in role playing, whereas like I I haven't played three of these games in the role playing category, but from my knowledge, Final Fantasy is like amongst the most lauded MMOs ever. So I'm surprised that it didn't even make a nomination in this category. That's like so interesting to me.
I don't know. I think it kind of just calls back to when I don't trust the critics, and when
Yes.
they don't tell me who the critics are, but I don't need to know the name of the person, though it helps a ton. But they're telling me CBC, I'm just shooting on CBC. I think they do some good work, but not in the gaming field.
All
Yes.
my
Um,
homies hate CVC
Uh,
gaming.
it's just like, how can I appreciate whoever you awarded to if I don't appreciate the selection and the people who decide? So
yeah.
I just can't connect with it. That's why I don't think
Yeah, no, that's fair, right? Like,
I've
why
really
should I
tuned
listen to
in.
you if I don't know who you
Mhm.
are?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like for other awards though, like again, kind of going back to the Oscars or the Grammys, like at least the nomination pools, like I tend to agree with, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like I can look at all the nominations and be like, yes, I've at least heard great things about everything here. There's no like oftentimes there's not something missing except again for very obvious snubs like I was talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Um, but like for the most part, I tend to agree with those pools. Here it seems entirely nonsensical. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, best multiplayer, like is Multiverses really deserving of a nomination? It seems like a flash in the pan. It was only popular for like a few months.
Multiverses, I think
Yeah,
is doesn't exist anymore.
Wait, they shut it down?
I think they shut down the servers.
Damn, that
already?
fast?
Yeah.
How,
Mhm.
then like how could this have been nominated for
Oh
best
wait, no,
multiplayer
maybe
game?
Multiverses still exists. I was thinking about a brawling game. Multiverses still exists, but like you said, it was just like a flash in the pan.
Yeah,
It,
and
you
yet
know,
again, like Final Fantasy wasn't nominated for best multiplayer experience. Like what?
right? Also, I think nobody's paying movie theaters to like. I guess people they are paying movie theaters to show their their films, but
Feel like you
for
have to be really
for
small to be
games,
able to do.
for games, there's Omega ad campaigns for movies and what, but for games, half the ad campaign is paying streamers to play their game for a week. It has a hype, but like you said, right? I want to see how the game holds up half a year later.
Mhm.
Um, then we really see if it. I'm not even asking you to stand the test of time. I just wanted to like have a player base.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's so interesting then
I
to
mean, there's a lot to get into, right? So we
yeah,
just don't have the time right now because we're gonna wrap it
that's
up.
true. Yes.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
yeah. So that's gonna be about it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed our rambling.
Yeah. I
Um,
feel like this one got a little bit
Get a little too passionate.
yeah.
no, I think it's fine. We can start disagreeing on more stuff, right? For real, for real.
That's
That
good.
makes it more exciting, right?
It's good. It's good.
But yeah, thanks for watching. This is our 10th episode already, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
See y'all next time.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.